From the ancient mists of feudal Japan emerges a tale whispered in hushed tones, a legend steeped in blood and madness. In an era where the samurai warrior held his katana as an extension of his soul, a sacred tool forged with honor and precision, there were certain blades that defied reverence. These were not mere weapons. They were entities, imbued with a malevolent will that would drive their wielders to unspeakable acts. This is the chilling saga of Muramasa, a swordsmith of unparalleled skill, whose creations became synonymous with a dark, insatiable hunger. His blades, impossibly sharp and perfectly balanced, were said to yearn for blood, corrupting the minds of those who dared to draw them. From the humblest warrior to the most powerful lord, ownership of a Muramasa often heralded a descent into paranoia, violence, and tragic demise. We will journey deep into the heart of this enduring mystery, exploring the historical context that birthed such a terrifying legend. Our expedition will confront the dramatic misfortunes of Japan's most formidable ruling family, the Tokugawa clan, whose every encounter with a Muramasa sword seemed to culminate in disaster. Was it mere coincidence, or did a genuine curse cling to the very steel? Prepare to witness a meticulous investigation into folklore, historical accounts, and the psychological impact of a legend that has haunted Japan for centuries. This is the story of a curse etched in metal, a blade that continues to cut through history, demanding to be understood. From the mists of feudal Japan, where honor was etched in steel and blood painted the battlefields, emerges a legend as chilling as it is enduring. It speaks of a blade, not merely a weapon, but an entity infused with a malevolent spirit, a sword that thirsts for blood, driving its wielders not just to victory, but to madness and murder. This is the tale of Muramasa's curse, a dark whisper that wound its way through the very heart of Japan's most powerful families, leaving a trail of tragedy and paranoia that defied logic and reason. Imagine a time when the samurai, the warrior elite, saw their katana not just as a tool of war, but as an extension of their soul, a sacred instrument forged with ritual and reverence. Each blade held a story, a spirit, a legacy. But among these revered weapons, there existed a type of sword whose reputation grew darker with every passing year, every unexplained death, every act of betrayal. These were the Muramasa blades, masterpieces of forging born from the hands of a legendary swordsmith, yet whispered to be possessed by a supernatural evil. They were said to crave violence, to refuse to be sheathed until they had drawn blood, even that of their own master. The air around them thrummed with an unseen hunger, infecting the minds of those who held them, twisting noble intentions into murderous impulses. This is not just a ghost story from a bygone era. It is a historical mystery entwined with the rise and fall of dynasties, impacting the very architects of Japan's unification. The legend of Muramasa is deeply embedded in the dramatic saga of the Tokugawa clan, whose fortunes were inextricably linked to these bloodthirsty blades. From accidental deaths to forced suicides, from battlefield tragedies to insidious political maneuvering, the Muramasa curse would relentlessly pursue the Tokugawa, making enemies of their closest kin, and even turning their own hands against themselves. We are about to embark on a journey into the heart of this enigma, exploring the true story behind the myth, the chilling coincidences, and the profound fear that gripped a nation under the shadow of a cursed katana. To understand the curse, we must first understand its genesis, the hands that forged the steel. Our story takes us back to the tumultuous Sengoku period, roughly the late 15th to early 16th century, a time of ceaseless civil war and profound social upheaval in Japan. This era, rife with conflict, paradoxically became a golden age for weaponry, demanding blades of unparalleled quality and lethality. It was amidst this crucible of chaos and innovation that Muramasa Sengo, a master swordsmith of the Ise province, emerged. Little is definitively known about Muramasa's personal life. He remains an enigmatic figure, shrouded in the mists of history and folklore. What is undeniable, however, is his extraordinary skill. Muramasa was not just a craftsman. He was an artist and an innovator whose techniques pushed the boundaries of sword-making. His blades were renowned for their exceptional sharpness and their uncanny ability to hold an edge, even after prolonged use in brutal combat. For a samurai, a reliable sword was the difference between life and death, and Muramasa's creations offered an edge that few could match. Warlords and high-ranking samurai eagerly sought out his swords, willing to pay exorbitant sums for the privilege of owning a Muramasa. They were instruments of war perfected, tools of ultimate precision designed to cut through bone and armor with terrifying ease. Yet, even during his lifetime, whispers began to circulate. Some said Muramasa himself was a man of unpredictable temper, perhaps even madness, and that this dark energy infused his creations. Others claimed his swords possessed an almost supernatural hunger for conflict, demanding to be drawn, compelling their owners toward violence. These were the early seeds of a legend, planted in an era where the line between skill and sorcery often blurred. While initially lauded for their peerless quality, the very effectiveness and distinct character of Muramasa's blades would, over time, become synonymous with something far more sinister. The stage was set for these magnificent weapons to transcend their material form and enter the realm of myth, becoming instruments not just of human will, but of an ancient malevolent force. To truly appreciate the Muramasa blade, and indeed any traditional Japanese katana, one must understand the profound, almost spiritual process of its creation. For a master swordsmith, the forge was not merely a workshop. It was a sacred space, and the act of crafting a sword was a ritual, a meditation, an attempt to imbue cold steel with a living soul. This wasn't mere metallurgy. It was alchemy, driven by centuries of tradition and an unwavering dedication to perfection. The process began with selecting the finest raw materials, tamahagane steel, often derived from iron sand. This steel, known for its varying carbon content, will be painstakingly folded and hammered thousands of times. Each fold removed impurities, homogenized the carbon, and created the distinctive grain pattern, or hata, unique to every blade. This relentless working of the metal was akin to purifying a spirit, removing the dross and refining the essence. During this stage, the smith would often work in complete silence, focusing all his energy and intention into the metal. Many observed periods of fasting and purification, wearing Shinto robes as they approached the forge, believing that their own spiritual state would directly influence the sword's character. Then came the differential hardening, perhaps the most critical stage, known as yakiire. The blade would be carefully coated with a special clay mixture, a thin layer along the edge, a thicker one along the spine. This unique application allowed the edge to cool rapidly, becoming incredibly hard, while the spine cooled slower, remaining more flexible and resilient. The moment the glowing blade was plunged into water was a point of immense tension and spiritual significance. It was believed to be the moment the blade truly received its soul, forming the intricate, undulating temper line, the hamon, that defines the strength and aesthetic beauty of a katana. Every aspect, from the angle of the hammer to the temperature of the water, was meticulously controlled, yet imbued with an almost mystical significance. The belief was that a smith's inner spirit, his intentions, his very ki, flowed into the blade. If Muramasa himself harbored a darker temperament, as legend suggests, then it was here, in the searing heat and precise ritual of the forge, that the seeds of his curse might truly have been sown. What made a Muramasa blade so distinct, so coveted, and ultimately so feared? Beyond the spiritual mystique of the forging process, Muramasa's swords possessed specific, identifiable characteristics that set them apart. These were not generic weapons. They bore the unmistakable signature of a master, making them instantly recognizable to the discerning eye of a samurai or collector. His craft was not just about raw power, but about a refined, almost ruthless efficiency. One of the most striking features of a Muramasa blade was its distinctive hamon, the temper line. While many smiths created beautiful hamon, Muramasa often employed bold, wavy patterns like gunno madère, irregular wave pattern, or no terre madère, rolling wave pattern, sometimes with prominent crystal structures along the hamon, that gave it an almost fiery, aggressive appearance. This vibrant hamon was not merely decorative. It was a testament to his mastery of differential hardening, indicating an exceptionally strong and sharp cutting edge. His hata, or grain pattern, also stood out, often exhibiting a clear and intricate wood grain, makium, or straight grain, masame, pattern, meticulously folded and refined through his legendary forging process. Technically, Muramasa blades were often characterized by a strong, deep sagata blade shape, with a pronounced curve that made them excellent for slashing and cutting. They were exceptionally well-balanced, feeling like an extension of the wielder's arm, deceptively light, yet devastatingly effective. This supreme sharpness and balance were what initially made them so desirable for samurai in the Sengoku period. They were tools designed for optimal performance in brutal, close-quarters combat. However, it was this very perfection, this eagerness to cut, that would later be twisted into the legend of their malevolent spirit. The aesthetic was one of aggressive beauty, a functional art that seemed to embody the very essence of combat. These were not blades meant for ceremonial display, but for drawing blood. It was this undeniable effectiveness, combined with their unique aesthetic and the growing whispers, that began to solidify the Muramasa legend, paving the way for the dramatic intersection of these blades with the most powerful family in Japan. To fully grasp the chilling narrative of Muramasa's curse, we must first understand its primary victim, the man whose lineage became inextricably linked with these infamous blades, Tokugawa Ieyasu. His story is one of ruthless ambition, strategic genius, and a relentless drive that would eventually forge a unified Japan from centuries of civil strife. Born in 1543 as Matsudaira Takechiyo, Ieyasu's early life was a precarious dance of survival. He spent years as a hostage, first to the Oda clan, then to the Imagawa, learning the brutal realities of power and the intricate webs of loyalty and betrayal that defined the Sengoku period. Through cunning alliances, calculated betrayals, and decisive military victories, Ieyasu slowly consolidated his power. He fought alongside and against legendary figures like Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King, and Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the Monkey General, often outliving his more impetuous allies. His defining moment came in 1600 at the Battle of Sekigahara, a monumental clash that pitted his eastern army against the western army of Hideyoshi's loyalists. Ieyasu's victory was absolute, cementing his position as the supreme military ruler of Japan. Just 3 years later, in 1603, he formally established the Tokugawa shogunate, shifting the political capital to Edo, modern-day Tokyo, and ushering in over 250 years of relative peace and stability known as the Edo period. Ieyasu was a pragmatist, a master strategist who valued patience and resilience above all else. He was a man who had witnessed untold bloodshed, navigated countless intrigues, and made unimaginable sacrifices to achieve his ultimate goal, to unify Japan under a single, strong leadership. His rise was a testament to his iron will and sharp intellect. Yet, despite his unparalleled achievements and his mastery over a fractured nation, Ieyasu harbored a profound fear, a deeply personal apprehension that would haunt him and his descendants for generations. It was a fear not of rival warlords or rebellious samurai, but of the very blades that had once been the pride of Japan's warriors. For Ieyasu, the name Muramasa evoked not just a master smith, but a malevolent force, a curse that had already begun to systematically dismantle his family, piece by agonizing piece. The chilling thread of the Muramasa curse begins not with Ieyasu himself, but with his grandfather, Matsudaira Kiyoyasu. Kiyoyasu was an ambitious and effective leader of the Matsudaira clan, a regional power that would eventually give rise to the Tokugawa. He was a man striving to expand his domain in a relentlessly brutal era, a precursor to Ieyasu's own rise. His death in 1535, at the age of 25, was not merely a tragedy. It was an act of patricide committed by one of his own retainers, Abe Masatoyo. And the weapon that delivered the fatal blow? A Muramasa blade. The circumstances surrounding Kiyoshi's death are steeped in the murky waters of feudal intrigue and miscommunication. Kiyoshi had suspected one of his own key vassals, Abe Sadayoshi, of treason. Sadayoshi's son, Masatoyo, hearing rumors that his father was about to be executed, impulsively broke into Kiyoshi's camp, intending to rescue him. In the ensuing confusion and darkness of a moonless night, Masatoyo, armed with a Muramasa katana, mistook his own father for an assailant. His attempt to strike down an imagined enemy instead led to the accidental murder of his lord, Matsudara Kiyoshi. The scene was one of utter chaos and devastating misunderstanding, leaving the young Matsudara clan leader dead, his ambitions abruptly extinguished, and a deep shadow cast over his family. This incident marked the first tragic intersection of a Muramasa blade with the Matsudara Tokugawa lineage. It was a death born of frantic loyalty, grave error, and the swift, unforgiving edge of a masterfully crafted sword. For Ieyasu, who was just a child at the time, the memory of his grandfather's untimely demise, executed by a blade of a specific, infamous type, would undoubtedly have resonated deeply. It wasn't just a death. It was a brutal, senseless end to a promising leader, setting a grim precedent. From this moment forward, the Muramasa was no longer just a sharp weapon. It was a harbinger of misfortune, a blade with a sinister will that seemed to actively seek out the blood of the Tokugawa clan, weaving its dark influence through the very fabric of their destiny. This accidental parricide was merely the first in a series of misfortunes that would solidify the legend of the curse. The Muramasa curse continued its relentless pursuit of the Tokugawa lineage, striking even closer to Ieyasu's heart. Perhaps the most devastating blow, and certainly the most cited instance of the curse's influence, was the forced suicide of Matsudara Nobuyasu, Ieyasu's eldest son and presumptive heir. This tragedy unfolded in 1579, a time when Ieyasu was still solidifying his power and needed a strong, unquestioning successor. Nobuyasu was a gifted warrior, celebrated for his martial prowess, and outwardly, a perfect fit to inherit the mantle of his powerful father. However, Nobuyasu's life was entangled in a complex web of political alliances. He was married to Princess Tokuhime, the eldest daughter of Oda Nobunaga, Ieyasu's powerful, often ruthless ally. Over time, friction grew between Tokuhime and her mother-in-law, Nobuyasu's mother, Lady Jukiyama. Tokuhime, perhaps feeling slighted or acting under her father's influence, sent a damning letter to Nobunaga, accusing both Nobuyasu and Lady Jukiyama of conspiring with the Takeda clan, a sworn enemy of both Oda and Tokugawa. She also alleged that Nobuyasu was an unfit leader, perhaps even a potential traitor. Nobunaga, ever swift and unforgiving, demanded that Ieyasu punish his son. Trapped between loyalty to his bloodline and the absolute necessity of maintaining his crucial alliance with the formidable Nobunaga, Ieyasu made the agonizing decision. He ordered Nobuyasu to commit seppuku, ritual suicide, on October 5, 1579, in the castle of Futamata. Matsudara Nobuyasu obeyed. The legend firmly asserts that the very blade used for this tragic act of seppuku was a Muramasa katana. For Ieyasu, this was an unbearable blow. Not only did he lose his beloved son, but he was forced to condemn him, effectively becoming the instrument of his heir's destruction. The curse now seemed to be turning the Tokugawa's own blades against them, sowing discord and demanding the ultimate sacrifice within the family itself. The loss of Nobuyasu was a severe personal and political setback for Ieyasu, reinforcing his deep-seated conviction that the Muramasa blades were indeed possessed by a malevolent spirit, forever bringing ruin to his house. The Muramasa's insidious influence wasn't confined to distant relatives or even his own heir. It would reach out and touch Tokugawa Ieyasu himself, further cementing his personal aversion and deep-seated suspicion towards these blades. It was an incident that, while not fatal, served as a stark, visceral reminder of the danger he believed these swords embodied. During a certain period, Ieyasu was examining a collection of swords, perhaps after a battle or during a routine inspection. He prided himself on his knowledge of weaponry and his ability to handle them with skill and precision. Yet, as he meticulously inspected one particular katana, said to be a Muramasa, a sudden, inexplicable slip occurred. The blade, with its renowned sharpness, sliced deeply into his hand. The wound was severe, requiring significant time to heal, and left a permanent scar. For Ieyasu, this was no mere accident. It was a clear, undeniable sign. The Muramasa blade, even in his own hands, had sought his blood. It was as if the sword possessed a will of its own, reaching out from its scabbard, refusing to be contained, perpetually hungry for conflict and violence. This incident, whether a genuine accident or a manifestation of his growing paranoia, solidified Ieyasu's conviction that the Muramasa blades were cursed. He began to develop a profound hatred for them, considering them harbingers of misfortune and malevolent entities. He ordered their destruction, banning their possession by his retainers, and even going so far as to remount any Muramasa blades he found in different fittings, attempting to disguise their true nature. The name Muramasa became an anathema within the Tokugawa clan, whispered with dread and avoided at all costs. The psychological impact of these repeated misfortunes, all linked to the same legendary swordsmith, was immense. For Ieyasu, the curse was not just a superstition. It was a tangible, personal threat that had claimed his loved ones and now had tasted his own blood. This deep-seated fear would ripple through generations, transforming Muramasa from a master smith into a symbol of a relentless, bloodthirsty curse that refused to die. The misfortunes of the Tokugawa clan, as we've seen, began to coalesce around a singular, terrifying explanation: the cursed blades of Muramasa. Yet, the story doesn't end with Ieyasu's immediate family. As the clan solidified its grip on Japan, a chilling pattern emerged, casting a long, dark shadow over their allies and extended relations, invariably linked by the whispers of the bloodthirsty swords. It was a gradual descent into paranoia, where every accident, every illness, every sudden death within the Tokugawa orbit was, by some twisted logic, attributed to Muramasa's malevolent influence. Consider the tragic tale of Matsudaira Tadadaru, Ieyasu's sixth son. Though a powerful daimyo in his own right, Tadadaru found himself increasingly at odds with his father. His eventual exile and downfall were officially attributed to insubordination and poor conduct. But behind closed doors, the murmurings were different. Tadadaru was known to possess several exquisite Muramasa blades. Was his hot temper, his impulsive decisions, his ultimate rejection by his father, merely the result of a flawed character, or was it the insidious whisper of a possessed katana driving him to self-destruction? The legend grew, absorbing every new calamity. A warrior, loyal to the Tokugawa, might fall in battle, and if a Muramasa blade was found on his person or among his possessions, it became irrefutable proof of the curse at work. It was a narrative that gained momentum through tragedy, reinforcing itself with each new victim. This wasn't just about direct lineage. The perceived curse metastasized, affecting anyone in close proximity, anyone who might unwittingly possess one of the forbidden swords. The very air around the Tokugawa, it seemed, became charged with a superstitious dread. These were not isolated incidents, but a series of unsettling misfortunes, stretching across decades, that gradually solidified into a compelling, if unfounded, pattern. The human mind, especially in times of war and uncertainty, seeks patterns, seeks explanations, even supernatural ones, to make sense of the senseless. And so, The Muramasa curse became the convenient, terrifying answer for the inexplicable, weaving itself irrevocably into the very fabric of the Tokugawa family's history, transforming a series of unfortunate events into a dark prophecy fulfilled. The accumulating tragedies, real and imagined, eventually pushed Tokugawa Ieyasu, the very founder of the shogunate, to a drastic decision. Haunted by the deaths of his grandfather, father, and even his own son, all touched by Muramasa, and increasingly troubled by the misfortunes befalling his allies, Ieyasu became convinced of the blade's malevolent nature. He believed, with unwavering conviction, that Muramasa's swords were not merely unlucky, but actively sought out Tokugawa blood, in a move unprecedented in Japanese history for a mere swordsmith. Ieyasu issued an edict, a decree, if not always official in parchment, then certainly enforced with the full weight of the shogunate's power, against the possession and display of Muramasa blades. The implications were immediate and profound. Suddenly, a prized family heirloom, a symbol of samurai honor, could become a dangerous liability. Across the nascent Tokugawa shogunate, samurai were ordered to surrender any Muramasa blades they possessed. Workshops that once proudly sold Muramasa creations now faced ruin. Blades were confiscated, some ceremonially destroyed, others hidden away, their distinct tangs meticulously filed down to obscure the maker's mark. Owning a Muramasa was not just bad luck. It was an act of defiance, a silent challenge to Ieyasu's authority. The swords were branded as cursed, dangerous, and, most importantly, forbidden. This edict effectively transformed Muramasa from a legendary craftsman into a symbol of opposition, his very name synonymous with treachery against the shogun. This wasn't merely superstition. It was a calculated act of power. By banning these blades, Ieyasu sought to sever a perceived link to misfortune, yes, but also to assert his absolute control, even over the very tools of war. It was a declaration that even inanimate objects could fall under the shogun's dominion if they threatened the stability of his reign. The Muramasa, once a pinnacle of steel artistry, became a pariah, a tangible representation of everything Ieyasu feared and sought to control. Its name, once whispered with reverence, was now spoken only in hushed tones of fear and taboo, forever marked by the shogun's decree. But why Muramasa? Was it truly just a string of unfortunate events, leading to a superstitious ban from the pragmatic Ieyasu? Or was there a deeper, more personal, perhaps even political animosity at play? To truly understand the shogun's vendetta against these blades, we must delve beyond the simple narrative of a curse and consider the historical context of their creation and the swordsmith himself. Muramasa, active in the late 15th to early 16th centuries, hailed from the Mino province, a region known for its skilled swordsmiths. His blades were renowned for their exceptional sharpness and distinct hamon, or temper line, qualities that made them highly sought after by warriors across Japan. Yet, some historians suggest a more subtle undercurrent to Ieyasu's disdain. The Muramasa school of smithing flourished during the Sengoku period, an era of intense civil war and shifting loyalties, precisely the chaotic environment Ieyasu fought so hard to unify. Many of the clans who fiercely resisted Ieyasu's rise to power, such as the Oda and Imagawa, were known to favor Muramasa blades. Could the swords, therefore, have become subconsciously associated with resistance, with the very enemies Ieyasu had to overcome? Furthermore, the swordsmith Muramasa was a contemporary or near contemporary of a rival school of sword-making, the Masamune school. Masamune blades, celebrated for their balance and beauty, were often seen as representing a different aesthetic, perhaps one more aligned with the emerging, unified Japan Ieyasu envisioned. By elevating Masamune and demonizing Muramasa, Ieyasu might have subtly been attempting to reshape the cultural landscape, favoring symbols of order and stability over those associated with the turbulent past. This was more than just bad luck. It was a potent combination of personal tragedy, strategic association with enemies, and perhaps a deliberate effort to control cultural narratives. The ban, therefore, wasn't just an act of a superstitious ruler, but a shrewd political maneuver, cloaked in the terrifying guise of a supernatural curse, designed to solidify the Tokugawa's power and discredit anything that might symbolize opposition. Ironically, Ieyasu's ban, intended to erase the Muramasa's presence, only amplified its legend and transformed it into something far more dangerous to the shogunate, a potent symbol of rebellion. The Tokugawa shogunate, though dominant, was far from universally loved. Many powerful daimyo and clans resented its iron grip, chafing under the centralized authority that had stripped them of much of their traditional autonomy. For these disgruntled factions, the forbidden Muramasa blade became a quiet, yet defiant, emblem of their anti-Tokugawa sentiment. To openly possess or display a Muramasa was an act of insubordination, a silent challenge to the shogun's authority. It was a tangible way for these dissenters to signal their disdain for Ieyasu's edict and, by extension, his rule. Stories emerged of warriors meticulously maintaining their Muramasa blades in secret, hiding them deep within their family strongholds, bringing them out only in hushed, candlelit chambers. These weren't just swords, they were statements, whispered promises of defiance. A daimyo might subtly hint at his allegiance by allowing a trusted retainer to carry a Muramasa, perhaps with the signature cleverly obscured but recognizable to those in the know. During the tumultuous Edo period, particularly as the shogunate aged, the Muramasa's symbolic power intensified. It was not uncommon for rebels and those plotting against the Tokugawa to deliberately seek out and acquire these cursed blades. For them, the curse wasn't a deterrent. It was an advantage. If the blade was said to crave Tokugawa blood, then it was the perfect weapon for those who indeed craved the downfall of the ruling clan. The legend, once a source of fear for the Tokugawa, became a rallying cry for their enemies. The very thing Ieyasu tried to suppress became a banner for his opposition, a testament to how symbols, even those steeped in superstition, can be weaponized in the eternal struggle for power and control. The Muramasa, the shogun's bane, thus found a new purpose, a silent, gleaming promise of revolution. The Muramasa curse legend, then, was far more than just a series of unfortunate events or even a simple edict. It was a masterclass in political propaganda, a sophisticated tool weaponized by the Tokugawa shogunate to consolidate power and demonize their opponents. By amplifying and perpetuating the narrative of the bloodthirsty, possessed katana, the Tokugawa could effectively discredit any faction or individual associated with these blades. Imagine the insidious power of such a story. If a rival daimyo or a rebellious general was known to possess a Muramasa, his subsequent downfall, whether by accident, illness, or defeat in battle, could be immediately attributed to the curse. This removed any need for the Tokugawa to directly implicate him in treason or incompetence. Instead, the narrative became, he brought this upon himself by owning a cursed blade. This subtly shifted blame, absolving the shogunate of direct responsibility for their rivals' misfortunes, while simultaneously reinforcing the image of Muramasa as an inherently evil object. It was a brilliant psychological tactic, playing on the deeply ingrained superstitions of the time. Furthermore, the legend served as a potent deterrent. Who would openly align themselves with a cursed object, knowing that such an association could invite not only misfortune, but also the wrath of the shogun, justified by supernatural pretext. The curse became a self-fulfilling prophecy, making Muramasa blades undesirable for all but the most desperate or defiant. The Tokugawa administration, with its vast network of spies and propagandists, would have ensured these tales spread far and wide, sowing fear and distrust. They cultivated an environment where the mere mention of Muramasa could evoke dread, transforming a legendary craftsman's name into a whisper of danger and defiance. This wasn't about truth. It was about control, about shaping public perception, and about leveraging ancient fears to maintain absolute authority. The Muramasa legend, therefore, stands as a chilling testament to how easily superstition can be manipulated for political gain, turning a craftsman's legacy into a powerful instrument of state control. Beneath the layers of political maneuvering and historical events, the Muramasa legend offers a fascinating glimpse into a universal human tendency, the psychology of blame. Throughout history, in times of uncertainty, conflict, or profound misfortune, humanity has often sought external forces or objects to attribute blame, creating scapegoats for the inexplicable. The Muramasa curse serves as a compelling, chilling case study in this fundamental aspect of the human psyche. When a loved one dies unexpectedly, when a battle is lost against all odds, when crops fail, the mind struggles to accept random chance or complex, multivariate causes. It yearns for a simpler, more concrete explanation. An object, especially one as potent and personal as a samurai's sword, becomes an ideal repository for this anxiety. Muramasa blades, renowned for their sharpness and often associated with death on the battlefield, were ripe for such attribution. Their very efficacy in taking lives could easily be twisted into a supernatural bloodlust. It's easier, psychologically, to blame a cursed blade than to confront the randomness of fate, the fallibility of human judgment, or the harsh realities of war. In feudal Japan, a society deeply steeped in animistic beliefs where spirits, kami, could inhabit objects and events, the concept of a possessed sword was not a far-fetched notion. It tapped into existing cultural frameworks, making the legend incredibly potent and believable. The perceived curse provided a convenient narrative for leaders to explain away their own shortcomings or the misfortunes of their allies without losing face. For the common person, it offered a tangible explanation for the chaos around them, a way to impose order on a turbulent world. The Muramasa became a symbol of collective anxiety, a physical embodiment of the dark forces that seemed to plague the land. It allowed individuals and society at large to channel their fear, grief, and anger onto a single, definable entity, rather than grappling with the complex, often unbearable truth of human fallibility and the indifferent cruelty of circumstance. The curse, in essence, was a psychological crutch, albeit one forged in steel and fear. With the context of political maneuvering and psychological scapegoating firmly established, it's time to turn a critical eye to the very heart of the Muramasa legend, the supposed killings and misfortunes that befell the Tokugawa clan. Did these blades truly possess a malevolent will, or do mundane, human explanations suffice? Applying a rigorous historical lens, the supernatural claims begin to fray. Let's revisit the tragic death of Matsudaira Hirotada, Ieyasu's father, who was murdered by a retainer. While Muramasa blade was supposedly involved, assassinations by disgruntled retainers were regrettably common in the chaotic Sengoku period. Loyalties were fluid and betrayals rampant. Attributing the act to a cursed sword rather than the complex web of political intrigue and personal grievances simply avoids the messy truth. Similarly, the suicide of Ieyasu's son, Matsura Nobuyasu, was ordered by his father, pressured by Oda Nobunaga. This was a political execution, a grim choice made under duress, not the random act of a possessed blade. And the accidental death of Ieyasu's grandfather, Matsudara Kiyoyasu, at the hands of his own retainer? A horrific accident born of misunderstanding and paranoia, a common occurrence in an era where trust was a rare commodity. When we strip away the layers of superstition and propaganda, what remains are tragic, yet entirely human, events. Battles were lost because of superior enemy tactics or poor leadership, not supernatural intervention. Individuals succumbed to illness, not because of a sword's curse, but due to the harsh realities of pre-modern medicine and hygiene. The pattern of misfortune, when viewed critically, dissolves into a series of unfortunate but explainable events occurring within a family heavily involved in the brutal, high-stakes game of feudal Japanese politics. The Muramasa blades, therefore, become silent witnesses to human drama, not supernatural instigators. They were simply incredibly sharp, well-made weapons, caught in the crosshairs of power, paranoia, and political ambition. The legend, for all its chilling allure, ultimately crumbles under the weight of historical scrutiny, revealing the more uncomfortable truth that the real monsters were often human, and the true curse was the brutal nature of power itself. Having journeyed through the dark shadows of Muramasa's legend, dissecting its origins, its political weaponization, and its psychological underpinnings, it's crucial now to step back and appreciate the object itself, beyond the myths. For at its heart, the katana, whether crafted by Muramasa or any other master, is not just a weapon. It is a profound testament to human ingenuity, artistry, and dedication. It represents one of the pinnacle achievements in metallurgical and artistic endeavor the world has ever known. The Japanese katana is a marvel of engineering, a blade forged through an arduous, multi-stage process involving precise temperature control, repeated folding of steel, up to 15 times, creating millions of microscopic layers, and differential hardening. This intricate process creates a sword with a hard, razor-sharp edge capable of cutting through bone, yet a softer, flexible spine that prevents it from shattering on impact. The distinct hamon, the temper line that traces a unique pattern along the blade, is not just decorative. It is the visible manifestation of this differential hardening, a fingerprint of the smith's mastery. From a humble iron sand, through the roaring forge, the rhythmic hammering, to the final polishing that can take weeks, the creation of a katana was a spiritual journey for the swordsmith. Each blade was imbued not with a curse, but with the spirit of its maker, his skill, his patience, and his dedication to perfection. These were objects of immense beauty, their polished surfaces reflecting light with an almost ethereal glow, their balance in the hand a testament to centuries of ergonomic refinement. The samurai revered their blades, not just for their killing power, but as extensions of their own souls, symbols of their honor and discipline. So, let's look past the whispers of blood and madness, beyond the fear-mongering and political machinations. Let us instead celebrate the undeniable brilliance of the Japanese swordsmith, the incredible artistry of the katana. Muramasa, despite his posthumous reputation, was undeniably a master of his craft. His blades, like those of other legendary smiths, deserve recognition for their exquisite quality, their unparalleled sharpness, and the enduring legacy of an art form that transformed mere metal into an object of profound cultural significance. The true power of the katana lies not in any curse, but in its breathtaking beauty, its devastating efficiency, and the unparalleled skill of the hands that forged it. From the very moment molten steel is shaped under the hammer, a katana begins to tell its story. But the true soul of a Japanese sword, the undeniable evidence of its mastery, lies not just in its form, but in the intricate patterns etched into its very surface, the hamon and the hata. These are not mere decorative flourishes. They are fingerprints of the smith, records of ancient metallurgical secrets, and the visual heartbeat of a blade that has been painstakingly brought to life. The hamon, or temper line, is perhaps the most captivating feature. It's the visible boundary between the hardened edge, yakiba, and the softer spine, hiraji, of the blade, a crucial element that gives the katana its unique combination of formidable sharpness and resilient flexibility. To achieve this, the swordsmith meticulously applies a special clay mixture to the blade before quenching. The spine receives a thicker coat, insulating it, while the cutting edge is left thinly coated or exposed. When plunged into water, the rapid cooling hardens the exposed edge into martensite, while the insulated spine cools more slowly, remaining tougher and more ductile. The resulting differential hardening creates the distinct, often wave-like or cloud-like patterns of the hamon, each a unique signature, revealing the smith's control over heat and material. Muramasa, like other legendary smiths, was renowned for his particularly aggressive and flamboyant hamon patterns, often displaying fierce choji, clove-like, or gunome, wave-like, motifs, sometimes accentuated by intricate neoi, fine mist, and crystalline particles that shimmer under the light. These patterns weren't just beautiful. They spoke to a precise, almost supernatural command of the forging process, promising a cutting edge of unparalleled efficacy. Equally vital, though often more subtle, is the hada, the grain pattern of the steel itself. This organic, wood-like texture arises from the complex process of folding and hammer welding multiple layers of steel. High-carbon steel, often tamahagane, is repeatedly folded upon itself, refining the grain, expelling impurities, and homogenizing the carbon content. Each fold creates countless microscopic layers, visible as delicate, swirling patterns on the polished surface. The most common hada patterns include masame, straight grain, itame, wood grain, and makyam, burl grain, each telling a story of the smith's specific folding techniques. Muramasa's hada was often described as being particularly fine and tight, a testament to countless hours spent hammering and folding, producing steel of exceptional density and strength. When observed closely, these patterns, like the rings of an ancient tree, speak of the blade's history, its transformation from raw or to refined weapon. It is within these deep, almost mystical layers of hamon and hada that collectors and connoisseurs find the spirit of the katana, a tangible connection to the smith's relentless pursuit of perfection. And in Muramasa's case, perhaps something more unsettling. But beauty, even in a katana, is merely a testament to the skill that produces its true purpose, lethality. For all their aesthetic splendor, Muramasa's blades were forged for one ultimate objective, to cut. And it was in this brutal utility that they achieved a terrifying reputation, for their sharpness was legendary, often spoken of in hushed tones as almost supernatural. The very precision visible in the hamon and hada translated directly into an edge that could sever flesh, bone, and even other weapons with chilling efficiency. The secret to this unparalleled sharpness lay not just in the initial forging, but in the intricate, multi-stage process of grinding and polishing. After the blade was forged and heat-treated, it underwent weeks, sometimes months, of meticulous work by a master polisher, or togashi. Starting with coarse stones and gradually moving to finer and finer grits, the polisher would reveal the blade's geometry, refine its surface, and crucially, hone its edge to an atomic-level keenness. This wasn't merely about creating a thin edge. It was about creating a perfectly aligned, incredibly hard-cutting surface that could hold its sharpness through repeated use. Muramasa's blades, crafted from exceptionally pure and well-folded steel, responded particularly well to this rigorous polishing, allowing for an edge that could slice through tatama mats with a single, clean stroke, or, as folklore suggests, even float through falling silk without resistance. In the crucible of feudal Japan, where the samurai's life often hung on the superiority of his weapon, such sharpness was not a luxury, but a brutal necessity. A Muramasa blade in skilled hands became an extension of the warrior's will, capable of executing swift, decisive blows that could turn the tide of battle. A sword that could cleave through armor, inflict grievous wounds with minimal effort, and retain its edge through sustained combat was an instrument of immense power. It saved lives even as it took them. However, it was this very attribute, this terrifying efficacy, that inadvertently fed the growing whispers of the Muramasa curse. A blade so sharp, so seemingly eager to cut, could it truly be wielded by human will alone? Or did it possess an innate thirst, an insatiable hunger for conflict that whispered to its owner? The lethal perfection of Muramasa's craft, intended to be a testament to human ingenuity, began to take on a darker, more insidious meaning. The unparalleled sharpness was not just admired, it was feared, an attribute that seemed to confirm the blade's unnatural, bloodthirsty inclination. To truly understand the Muramasa legend, we must, for a moment, set aside the whispers of curses and the dread of its deadly reputation. Before it became a symbol of misfortune, The name Muramasa stood for something else entirely: unparalleled genius. Muramasa was not merely a smith. He was a revolutionary, a master whose innovations pushed the boundaries of sword-making in Japan during the tumultuous Muromachi period, roughly from the late 15th to early 16th centuries. His work represents a zenith in the history of Japanese sword art, a period when the demand for high-quality, battle-ready blades was at its peak. Born in Ayase Province, in what is now Mie Prefecture, Muramasa's school flourished, producing generations of exceptional swordsmiths. His technical prowess was undeniable. His blades were characterized by a distinctive sori, curvature, and a unique sagata, form, that prioritized cutting power and handling efficiency. He was known for producing futsagata blades, often with a slightly wider mahaba, blade width, and a more pronounced curvature near the hilt, designed for powerful, decisive strikes. His meticulous control over the differential hardening process resulted in those famously aggressive Hammond patterns. The sharp, pointed togaribiye or the Ikki Hammond, rich with shimmering crystals, which were not just visually striking but functionally superior, creating an incredibly resilient and sharp edge. Muramasa's reputation among his contemporaries and the samurai class was immense. His blades were highly sought after, valued for their reliability, balance, and unmatched cutting ability. They were tools of war, yes, but also exquisite pieces of art, embodying the samurai spirit of perfection in both form and function. To own a Muramasa was a mark of distinction, a testament to one's discerning taste and understanding of true quality. For generations, they were passed down as treasured heirlooms, not for any cursed properties, but for their undeniable excellence. The true tragedy of Muramasa's legacy is that his profound skill was eventually overshadowed by a narrative of malevolence. The very precision and power he imbued in his steel, intended to serve the warrior, became twisted into evidence of a dark will. Reclaiming Muramasa's true legacy means acknowledging him first and foremost as a brilliant artisan, a visionary whose technical innovations and artistic flair left an indelible mark on the art of Nihonto, the Japanese sword. His blades are, in essence, a profound testament to human ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of perfection, a legacy that deserves to be celebrated, independent of the superstitions that later clung to his name. Only by separating the craftsman from the myth can we truly appreciate the magnitude of his contribution. For centuries, these blades were whispered about, feared, and coveted. But what of Muramasa's masterpieces today? Do they still exist? Tangible links to a legend shrouded in blood and steel? The answer is unequivocally yes. Scattered across the globe, in prestigious museums, private collections, and occasionally resurfacing at exclusive auctions, authentic Muramasa blades continue to captivate and mystify. Identifying a true Muramasa can be a complex undertaking, requiring the keen eye of an experienced appraiser. While some blades bear the Muramasa signature on their tang, nakago, others, particularly older or more extensively modified examples, are attributed to the school based on their distinctive characteristics: the aggressive Hammond patterns, the unique sagata, and the meticulous hata. These blades are often registered as Juyo Bunkazai, important cultural properties, or even Kako, national treasures, by the Japanese government, recognizing their immense historical and artistic value. One notable example is the Myoho Muramasa, a particularly famous blade known for its exceptional quality and often associated with the very peak of the Muramasa school's artistry. Another is the Honjo Muramasa, though its fate after World War II remains a mystery, adding another layer of intrigue to the legend. These aren't just weapons. They are irreplaceable artifacts, preserved not for their supposed curse, but for their profound significance in Japanese history and metallurgy. Modern owners, whether institutions or private collectors, treat these blades with the utmost reverence and care. Curators handle them with white gloves, storing them in climate-controlled environments to prevent degradation. The idea of a curse rarely enters their professional assessment. Instead, the focus is on authentication, conservation, and scholarly research. They are studied for their material science, their artistic merit, and their place in the lineage of Japanese sword-making. While the legend adds a layer of romantic allure for serious collectors and historians, the primary draw is the unparalleled craftsmanship. Yet, the legend persists. When a Muramasa blade surfaces, even in a pristine museum setting, a shiver often runs through those familiar with its history. The stories of the Tokugawa clan's misfortunes, of blades thirsting for blood, are too deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness to be entirely dismissed. So, while scientific study may debunk the supernatural, the psychological impact of Muramasa's curse continues to resonate. These magnificent, yet fabled, weapons stand as a testament to a master's skill and a powerful reminder of how human fear and superstition can forever intertwine with the legacy of genius. The transition from physical artifact to cultural phenomenon is a fascinating journey. While Muramasa's blades were causing real-world impacts on battlefields and in the lives of samurai, the legend of their dark power began to take root in the very fabric of Japanese storytelling. Long before the advent of modern media, the Muramasa curse found fertile ground in traditional literature, the dramatic stages of kabuki, and the intimate whispers of folk tales, embedding itself deeply into the collective imagination. One of the earliest and most impactful appearances of the Muramasa legend in popular culture can be traced back to the Edo period, 1603 to 1868. As literacy spread and publishing flourished, stories of heroes and villains, often wielding legendary blades, became widely consumed. The misfortunes of the Tokugawa family, especially Ieyasu's repeated injuries and the deaths of his relatives linked to Muramasa's swords, provided irresistible dramatic fodder. These historical anecdotes, often embellished, transformed from mere coincidence into evidence of an active, malevolent curse. Kabuki theater, with its flamboyant costumes, stylized movements, and heightened drama, was a natural medium for the Muramasa legend to thrive. Plays such as Takedo Yatsuya Kaiden, while not explicitly centered on Muramasa, often featured cursed blades or vengeful spirits that echoed the Muramasa narrative. More directly, other plays would depict characters driven to madness or committing heinous acts under the influence of a Muramasa blade. The stage offered a powerful visual and emotional platform for the audience to experience the terror and allure of such a weapon. The dramatic arc of a noble warrior descending into madness, or a righteous lord falling victim to an unseen, malevolent force tied to his weapon, resonated deeply with contemporary audiences, reflecting their own fears and fascinations with fate and destiny. Beyond formal theater, the Muramasa curse became a staple of koden, storytelling performances, and rakugo, comic storytelling, reaching even wider audiences. These oral traditions allowed for fluidity and regional variations, further cementing the legend. Villagers would share tales of Muramasa blades found hidden away, driving families to ruin, or samurai meeting grisly ends. These narratives weren't just entertainment. They served as cautionary tales, reflecting a society grappling with the unseen forces of fate and the profound psychological impact of instruments designed for death. Through these pervasive cultural echoes, the Muramasa blade transcended its physical form, becoming a potent symbol, a dark archetype that would continue to inspire storytellers for centuries to come. From the hushed tones of Edo period storytelling, the Muramasa legend embarked on a new, vibrant journey, finding an electrifying resurgence in the contemporary canvases of manga and the dynamic frames of anime. In the modern era, these globally influential Japanese art forms have taken the ancient whispers of a cursed blade and reimagined them for new generations, ensuring Muramasa's dark legacy continues to resonate with unprecedented reach. Japanese manga and anime, known for their rich storytelling, diverse genres, and compelling character development, frequently draw upon historical figures and mythological elements. Muramasa blades fit perfectly into this narrative landscape. They offer a potent archetype, a weapon of immense power tainted by a malevolent will. This dual nature, desirable yet dangerous, is a classic dramatic device that creators skillfully exploit. In series like Bleach, the character Muramasa is not just a sword, but a sentient Zanpakuto, soul-cutting sword, that can manipulate others' blades, embodying the idea of a weapon with its own will and agenda. In Naruto, the legendary swords of the seven ninja swordsmen of the mist, while not explicitly Muramasa, often possess unique, almost sentient, properties that echo the cursed blade trope. Even in more grounded historical anime, a Muramasa might appear as a coveted, yet dangerous, artifact. The legendary swordsmith's name often serves as shorthand for a blade of exceptional, almost unnatural quality. These modern reinterpretations often play with the curse aspect in various ways. Sometimes, the blade literally drives its wielder to madness or violence. In other instances, it grants incredible power at a steep personal cost, forcing characters to confront the moral implications of wielding such an artifact. The visual medium of anime allows for spectacular depictions of these blades in action, their hamon glowing ominously, their sharpness slicing through impossible barriers, and the dark aura they project around their wielder. The dramatic flair inherent in anime amplifies the Muramasa legend, turning an historical anecdote into a dynamic, fantastical element within sprawling epic narratives. By integrating Muramasa into fantastical worlds filled with ninjas, samurai, and supernatural entities, manga and anime creators have not only kept the legend alive, but have also expanded its parameters. They've introduced it to a global audience, transforming a specific Japanese historical superstition into a universal symbol of power, peril, and the seductive corruption of a truly formidable weapon. This ongoing cultural evolution ensures that Muramasa's name, whether as a historical smith or a fantastical entity, remains firmly etched in the minds of millions. From the static pages of manga and the animated frames of anime, the Muramasa legend takes its most interactive form within the digital realms of video games. Here, the cursed weapon isn't just a story told or watched. It's an item wielded, a choice made, and a risk taken by the player. The Muramasa blade has found a potent and persistent home in video game lore, becoming a classic trope for powerful, yet perilous, items that challenge players' strategic decisions and moral compasses. Video games excel at translating abstract concepts like curses and legends into tangible gameplay mechanics. A Muramasa sword in a video game isn't merely a strong weapon. It often comes with a significant drawback. It might offer unparalleled attack power, but slowly drain the player's health, randomly inflict status ailments, or even have a chance to turn against its wielder. This direct interaction transforms the passive dread of the legend into an active gameplay dilemma. Is the immense power worth the inherent risk? Players must weigh the benefits against the dangers, making the Muramasa not just an item, but a narrative device that encourages careful thought and adds a layer of depth to combat. Examples abound across various genres. In titles like Final Fantasy, Castlevania, or even indie games exploring feudal Japan, a Muramasa or Muramasa blade frequently appears as an endgame weapon, often shrouded in mystery and difficult to acquire. Its appearance is a nod to its real-world legend, instantly communicating its status as an artifact of formidable might and potential danger. Players recognize the name and immediately understand the implications. The visual design of these in-game Muramasas often leans into the legendary aspects. They might glow with a dark energy, have an unusually menacing aesthetic, or bear distinctively aggressive hamon patterns that set them apart from other blades. More than just a weapon, the Muramasa in video games represents a test. It challenges the player to master its unpredictable nature, to tame the curse, or to strategically mitigate its negative effects. This interactive element allows players to personally experience the allure and the dread associated with such a legendary blade, embodying the very essence of its bloodthirsty reputation. Through pixels and code, Muramasa continues its journey, cutting its way into the hearts and minds of millions of gamers worldwide, proving that even ancient legends can find new life and renewed menace in the digital age. From the interactive battlegrounds of video games, the Muramasa legend extends its reach to the grandest stage of all, the silver screen and the television set. Here, in the visual mediums of film and television, the cursed katana finds its most direct and compelling cinematic incarnations, bringing its chilling narrative to life for millions of viewers across the globe. These productions, ranging from historical epics to fantastical thrillers, leverage the inherent drama of the Muramasa myth, crafting stories where the blade is often a character unto itself. Japanese cinema, with its rich tradition of samurai films, chambara, has naturally embraced the Muramasa legend. Directors use the visual power of the blade to signify fate, doom, or irresistible power. A well-placed shot of a character slowly drawing a Muramasa, its hammer glinting ominously, can instantly convey dread without a single word. Films set in the Edo period, or those focusing on the Tokugawa shogunate, often weave in subtle or explicit references to Muramasa, playing on the audience's existing knowledge of the legend to heighten suspense. The blade becomes a potent symbol of impending tragedy, a silent harbinger of violence. Beyond historical dramas, Muramasa's influence can be seen in more fantastical or horror-tinged narratives. A cursed sword is a classic trope, and Muramasa provides the perfect historical precedent, allowing filmmakers to ground supernatural elements in an established legend. In such films, the blade might possess its wielder, demand blood sacrifices, or have a malevolent spirit trapped within its steel, directly manifesting the curse with chilling special effects and intense performances. International productions, too, have occasionally touched upon the Muramasa legend, sometimes directly, sometimes through thematic allusion to a cursed Japanese sword. Its recognition as a powerful, dangerous artifact transcends cultural barriers, making it an accessible and compelling narrative device for a global audience. Whether it's a warrior protagonist struggling against the insidious influence of their blade, or an antagonist driven to madness by its thirst for blood, Muramasa offers a ready-made story arc of temptation, power, and tragic consequence. In essence, film and television serve as the ultimate theatrical canvas for Muramasa's curse. They visually manifest the legend, transforming abstract whispers into tangible dread and distant history into immediate drama. As the camera lingers on a gleaming, deadly Muramasa blade, audiences are once again reminded that some legends are not merely stories, but potent forces that continue to haunt, fascinate, and influence us generation after generation. The blade's bloodthirsty reputation, born in the forges of feudal Japan, continues to cut deep into our collective consciousness, a testament to the enduring power of Muramasa's terrifying legacy. We have journeyed through the shadowed annals of feudal Japan, through whispers of honor, ambition, and the chilling legend of Muramasa. From meticulously crafted steel of a master swordsmith to the alleged misfortunes of the mighty Tokugawa shogunate, the story of Muramasa's curse has captivated for centuries. But as we stand at the precipice of understanding, a fundamental question emerges, echoing through the corridors of time. Was it fact, fiction, or something far more intricate, a tapestry woven from both? Science, with its cold, hard logic, offers no tangible evidence of a supernatural force emanating from Muramasa blade. No spectral energy signature, no measurable evil. Yet, to dismiss the legend entirely is to ignore the profound impact it had on the lives it touched. The human mind, particularly in times of profound stress and conflict, often seeks explanations for tragedy, finding solace or fear in attributing agency to inanimate objects. Was it simply a series of tragic coincidences that plagued the Tokugawa clan? Or did the burgeoning belief in a cursed blade create a powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy? Consider the psychological weight of knowing your family had suffered multiple grievous losses, all linked to a particular type of sword. The fear itself could lead to paranoia, reckless decisions, or even a heightened perception of misfortune. A scratch, a minor illness, a misplaced document, all could be amplified, seen through the dark lens of the Muramasa curse. For men like Tokugawa Ieyasu and his descendants, whose lives were constantly under threat, the legend provided a convenient, albeit terrifying, explanation for the unpredictable chaos of their world. It transformed random acts of fate into the workings of a malevolent force, making the unknowable slightly more definable, even if more frightening. This isn't to diminish the very real suffering and death that occurred, but it forces us to ponder the permeable boundary between perception and reality. Did the blades themselves possess a malevolent will? Or did the collective human consciousness imbue them with it, a terrifying echo chamber of belief that reverberated across generations? The mystery endures not because we lack answers, but because the answers refuse to be singular, forcing us to confront the intricate interplay between the tangible world of steel and the intangible realm of faith and fear. Regardless of its literal truth, whether the Muramasa blades truly held a bloodthirsty spirit or were merely victims of circumstance and superstition, the legend itself became an undeniable force, an unseen hand guiding the currents of history. This is the profound power of narrative, how stories, myths, and cultural beliefs can manifest tangible outcomes, shaping not just individual lives, but the destiny of entire nations. The saga of Muramasa is a potent testament to this phenomenon. For the Tokugawa clan, particularly after the decisive Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, which cemented their rule, the alleged curse provided a powerful, if dark, political tool. To banish, destroy, and systematically seek out Muramasa blades wasn't merely an act of superstition. It was a symbolic rejection of an object associated with past misfortunes and, perhaps more importantly, with potential rebellion. These were blades that had reputedly struck down Tokugawa family members, thus becoming an emblem of defiance against the new shogunate. The story, therefore, wasn't just a tale to tell around a fire. It was codified into policy, altering the course of artifact, preservation, and even influencing the perception of martial prowess. Generations grew up hearing these stories, internalizing them, passing them down. The legend became intertwined with Japanese cultural identity, a cautionary tale about unchecked ambition or the perils of fate. It solidified Muramasa's place not just as a master artisan, but as a legendary figure whose creations transcended mere metallurgy. This narrative imbued Muramasa blades with an aura that few other swordsmiths could ever hope to achieve. Even today, collectors and enthusiasts approach a Muramasa with a blend of awe, respect, and a lingering sense of its dark mystique, precisely because of the centuries-old story. From the epic sagas of ancient heroes to the founding myths of civilizations, humanity has always used narratives to make sense of the world, to enforce social norms, and to transmit collective memory. The Muramasa legend, though rooted in fear and tragedy, became one such enduring narrative. It painted Muramasa as a figure beyond mortal comprehension, a smith whose spirit infused his creations with a life of their own. It serves as a stark reminder that what we believe, what we tell each other, and what we choose to remember holds immense sway over the material world, capable of sparking fear, instigating bans, and even preserving a legacy more potent than any physical object could achieve alone. If the Muramasa legend is, at its heart, a powerful narrative, then it begs the ultimate philosophical question. Does the blade truly possess the wielder, or does the wielder's intent define the blade? For centuries, this debate has resonated in martial philosophy, particularly within cultures that view weapons as extensions of the self. In feudal Japan, the samurai sword, the katana, was often considered the soul of the samurai. It was not merely a tool for war, but a sacred object, imbued with the spirit and discipline of its owner. Muramasa's genius lay in crafting blades of unparalleled sharpness and balance. They were instruments of lethal efficiency, designed to cut with terrifying precision. Could it be that this very perfection, this sublime effectiveness, made them inherently dangerous? A razor-sharp Muramasa, capable of effortlessly slicing through bone and sinew, might tempt a wielder to act with less restraint, to cross the line between necessary force and bloodthirsty aggression. The ease with which it performed its grim task could, perhaps, foster a darker predisposition in those already inclined towards violence or desperation. Imagine a samurai, already burdened by a code of honor that often demanded violence, and now wielding a blade rumored to be cursed, hungry for blood. The psychological suggestion alone could be overwhelming. Was it the blade's inherent malevolence that drove a man to madness, or did the belief in that malevolence simply release his own suppressed demons? The Muramasa, in this context, becomes a mirror, reflecting and amplifying the darkness that already resided within the human heart. It does not force action, but it might lower the threshold for it, whispering temptations that are easier to succumb to when holding such a potent, legendary weapon. This contemplation transcends the specific legend of Muramasa. It asks us to look inward, to confront the source of evil. Is evil an external force, attaching itself to objects and individuals, or is it an intrinsic part of human nature, merely expressed through the tools we create and wield? The Muramasa blades, in their terrifying beauty, force us to grapple with this uncomfortable truth, pushing us to acknowledge that while a weapon can facilitate destruction, the ultimate responsibility for bloodshed, for madness, and for the perpetuation of cycles of violence rests squarely with the hand that holds the hilt and the mind that gives the command. The blade may be sharp, but the intent is always human. So, what remains of Muramasa's legacy? As we bring our journey to its end, we find that these legendary blades refuse to be neatly categorized. They are at once magnificent works of art, tangible testaments to the pinnacle of Japanese swordsmithing, crafted by a master whose skill was undeniable. Each curve, each line of the hammer, each precise cut of the tang is a testament to centuries of metallurgical tradition, embodying a profound beauty that transcends their deadly purpose. Modern enthusiasts and collectors pay homage not to a curse, but to the unparalleled craftsmanship that defined Muramasa's school. But beyond their artistic merit, Muramasa blades are also profound historical artifacts. They were present on the battlefields of the Sengoku period, silent witnesses to the tumultuous birth of a unified Japan. They represent not just the steel, but the dreams and fears of the samurai who wielded them, the political machinations that sought to erase them, and the cultural memory that stubbornly refused to let them fade. To hold a Muramasa blade is to touch a piece of history, to feel the weight of centuries of conflict and change. And woven inextricably through this tapestry of art and history is the enduring thread of superstition. The curse of Muramasa is no longer a direct threat to a living shogun, but it remains a captivating symbol. It is a ghost in the machine and whisper in the steel, a narrative that gives these blades an unparalleled mystique. It is this very superstition, this dark renown, that elevates Muramasa from simply a great swordsmith to a legend, whose creations are forever associated with power, danger, and a certain tragic destiny. It makes them more than just metal. It makes them a story. In the end, the true power of Muramasa blades may not lie in any supernatural enchantment, but in the story we tell about them. It's a story of extraordinary skill, of political intrigue, of human fear, and the enduring potency of myth. It reminds us that even inanimate objects can become vessels for our deepest beliefs and anxieties. The Muramasa legacy, therefore, is not merely about a blade, but about the profound relationship between humanity and its creations, where art, history, and superstition converge to forge a legend that, even centuries later, continues to cut deep into the collective imagination. The legend of Muramasa will forever gleam, sharp and unforgettable, reflecting the light and shadow of Japan's profound past. Our journey through the legend of Muramasa has spanned centuries, dissecting the boundary between historical fact and the intoxicating power of myth. We've seen how a master craftsman's genius could become intertwined with an enduring tale of bloodlust and madness, transforming mere steel into a potent symbol of dread and supernatural force. Whether a Muramasa blade was genuinely possessed by a malevolent spirit or simply bore witness to a string of tragic coincidences and the brutal realities of feudal warfare, its story resonates with profound depth. It reminds us how human beliefs, superstitions, and the relentless quest for power can imbue objects with a life of their own, making them far more than their material composition suggests. The legend of Muramasa transcends the physical sword, becoming a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and our eternal fascination with the unknown. So, we are left with a compelling question that continues to echo through time. Was it a genuine supernatural curse woven into the very fabric of the blade, or was it a potent blend of tragic circumstance, political maneuvering, and the indelible power of human storytelling? Regardless of the definitive answer, the legend of Muramasa endures, a chilling testament to the profound impact objects can have when imbued with narrative and belief, ensuring that the bloodthirsty katana continues to captivate and haunt the imagination.